Welcome to Louisiana Heart Beats. I'm Sudie Landry again. I'm hosting someone special who has something to offer Acadiana. You may know about Acadiana Memories, but I didn't, and I got to meet with Heather E. Cypel, and she is from our area. I think she is a born Cajun person, and she has a resource that she wants to offer to you. So thank you for coming into the show,
Absolutely.
Heather.
Thank you for having me, Sudie.
Heather and I have a lot in common, Acadiana. She comes from a background of storytelling. I like to write stories, I like to share stories, but Heather has come up with a unique way of capturing those stories in time for the future generations to be able not only to possibly see the person, but hear their actual voice. And if they're a storyteller, actually telling stories, or just talking about the family tree. And since you have done this, I'm going to start off by asking you, Heather, why did you decide to do something like this, and what is your background that gives you the passion to continue doing so?
Okay, well, actually my degree is in history.
Okay.
And my minor is in anthropology, which is absolutely my passion. The history kind of goes through different events and times and places, but the anthropology really captures everything about a person's experience in life. And so it goes through the culture, the psychology, the biology and medical aspects of a person's life. And so whenever I try to capture a person's life, this is everything that I am trying to include so that their family can know this person a lot more completely, and also future generations can know this individual.
Well, I'm going to go back and step back into the old times of doing things, because she represents the up-to-date technical steps that have come a long ways. Heather's, I had read some information on Heather that she shares on that webpage that you see up there, and I can tell you that I understood why she has such a passion, because she has had a special person in her life that's not on this planet at this time, but still in her heart and in her presence, her granny.
Yes.
And I understand that you were trying to share stories with your daughter, and it just didn't quite come out like you'd want, but yet, is that possibly part of why you want to offer this to other people out there?
Absolutely, absolutely. I thought that I could write volumes about my granny. She and I were so close my whole life growing up, and you know, she passed away when my daughter was just under a year old. And so I try and explain this to my daughter, and it doesn't quite come out, you know, as completely and fully. You know, how do you physically describe somebody? How do you describe their personality? You know, I kept saying, she was the sweetest person ever. And my daughter was like, okay, that's nice, you know, and I was like, no, how do I explain and really allow her to grasp the understanding of who this person was? And I was just falling short, you know. And so then also with my other grandmother, I had a short video recording, and you know, just different home videos and such. And it was nice because I could see her on the screen, but you know, she was, you know, on the screen. I could tell her mannerisms and such. But then I came across an audio recording of her. And it was about a 20-minute long audio recording of her telling some stories when she was younger. And when I put in that recording, I felt like I was in the room there with her again, and I could see everything. I could see the curtains, I could see the chairs, I could see her facial expressions throughout the stories that she was telling, and I said, I want to be able to give people that experience.
Well, how long have you been offering to do this for people? How long has this been in service, how long have you been actually ready to share other people's stories?
So actually, I opened it as a business at the beginning of last year. So you know, a year and a few months now it's been as a business. But I have been recording individuals for quite a while because I'm working on a book about growing up in South Louisiana. So I was actually kind of landing interviews whenever I could, and I was recording them on audio.
Well, as the people can see, it's called Acadiana Memories.
Yes.
Now, it's actually, she puts it in words, recording life stories, and I added in audio.
Yes.
Okay, that is what makes it so unique, is the fact that you Wow, just like I'm thinking of my best friend, I'm thinking
Yes.
that of all the loved ones that I lost recently. And I had shared with you in our little meeting prior to this about me actually having a small recording of my 102.5-year-old great-grandmother and my 97-year-old, her grandmother, and then her sister. And we were all singing this song, which eventually, it was all on recording.
Yes.
And I found that, and so, of course, different people in the family wanted a recording of it. And it was like us all trying to harmonize, and we finally got it together.
Good.
And we got a good story. But I can sense that that meant so much to me, but meant even more to be able to share with these other people in the family. So this is a great opportunity for people to not only share in story and in print, but also the actual
Audio.
mannerisms. Like I'm gonna share this one little story. I wish it would be in audio. If she was still around, Mama Besson, look out. When she made her sesame seed candy, she licked her lips and she broke every knob on the stove, and when she tapped it out, she didn't just cut it. She pulled a piece and she slammed it in your plate, so you better learn to catch it or you were gonna miss it. And we laugh about that because there is a stove that still has where she kept breaking the knobs off. I mean, bam,
that's
she was really
funny.
rough. But it's the candy was good, but we all learned. Be ready, because she never knew what plate it was going to hit. I mean, plop, plop, and I mean literally something you'd think you'd only see in movies.
Right.
And so, but she was a very hilarious woman. So that was something I could picture these days. If I had the ability to have her here, I would be very interested in going out and audioing her. So, good stories.
Absolutely.
And what you're offering is not just for people to me, it's an easy way out for people who wanna, but never know how to go about doing anything. Is to be, there is a way. All these wonderful veterans
Absolutely.
that are still here. All these awesome stories of families. I mean, literally memories, and just like you're writing a book.
Yes.
And it went from one area to another area.
Yes.
I'm now seeing more and more Cajun stories coming through the outlet that I serve as Writers Guild in Acadiana.
Yes.
I mean, all the customs, black pot cooking, talking about the stories, and I can see some of this going on audio, even for them, while they're trying to reserve the memories of the past,
Absolutely.
So you can say honestly that you just want to get it right and you want to do your part and keeping Acadiana who is your heart. Why? Because you're from here, aren't you?
I absolutely am. And, I find it very important to write down the stories is wonderful. But if you can hear them saying it in those words, just as you were saying the story about
My mask, that's
exactly.
Oh, look out.
And the way that you enunciated those words just then made the story even more interesting, and it kept people's attention. If it were just in words, it would be lovely to have that story.
Right.
But how much greater is it whenever it's in their own voice and in their own personality?
So anyone that would be interested in maybe finding out all the different things that you can send them in the right direction, they can always check out your webpage and go from there.
Absolutely. It's AcadianaMemories.com.
That's right. That's all you need to know. Remember, it's about Acadiana, it's about memories, and you get your information there. So you've already explained and shared why the voices are so important, and I can relate to that. Okay, why don't you just share a story with us that you wish that you could have had on audio, one of many. Is there one particular one that jumps out like right now? Not that it's the best, the most important, but one?
Actually, yes. I did not have this story on recording of my personal grandmother.
Okay.
So I remember her telling this story, but I really wish we would have had it on audio because she did not tell it to very many people.
Oh.
So I was very privileged to get this story. But my grandmother and grandfather were Polish, hence my last name being Cypel. And so they actually met in a labor camp when they were in a labor camp in Germany. So they had been taken from their home in Poland, and they met in this labor camp. And she was actually on one farm, and her husband was on another farm. And she said her farmer was nice, but his was not so nice. And so they actually ended up meeting. They would walk to the edge of each farm and talk to each other across the fences. And she said that ended up to where his farmer really did not like her.
I love that story. Those stories, if someone doesn't do something, they're lost.
Yes.
Whether they're in print, you just added an extra interest.
Absolutely.
And an extra memory and up to date with the technical and everything.
Yes.
I can see that. Like my grandmother, and we called her Little Mother, she's from an area where she, let me just say this, I come from a line of people who's written books, but I had no idea that The Yearling was one of the books that was written about my grandmother's family.
Wow.
And it was the truth in those days of actually can't befriend an animal because she had to end up killing that animal for food.
Yes.
So when this deer got into it's been told many times by other people, but it turns out one of my relatives is the one that actually wrote that story.
Wow.
And so as she began to tell the story, I'm like finding out this information many years later, and I'm going, wait a minute, whoa. You're talking about, I said, that's a book you read or a story? No, that's my brother, my mother's brother that wrote that story.
Wow.
So it was very interesting, and I wish that her telling the story could have been captured, but
Exactly.
you can do it, but why not do it now? Start something new now, and that's what Acadiana Memories is all about.
Absolutely.
So I was excited. I mean, Facebooking, they can even find out information and check out your webpage under the name there also, right?
Yes, absolutely.
What are some of the outlets that they can check out? What is it, Facebook, or do you Twitter? Or?
No, but I do have Instagram and LinkedIn under my personal name.
So if they want information, then they can send info to you, or how do they just more or less check out your webpage and ask you the questions they need to ask?
They can actually email me at heather@acadianamemories.com or send me a private message on Facebook at Acadiana Memories page. Yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of take the audience that's out there watching this right now. Let's take them through what are some of the things maybe you've done. Just give us a glimpse into examples of maybe people you've contacted so far. Not necessarily naming them, but the kind of activity that you offered.
What you mean?
Like, for example,
service?
Okay, what is the structure? Do you adjust to each person, accommodate each person?
Yes.
Let's talk about how you
Absolutely.
tweak it.
I kind of, have a conversation with them and try to fit them into one of my current packages. And so it depends on really the length of time they want to record.
Okay.
If they want to focus on maybe 1 or 2 short stories, or if they want an entire life history, which I love doing. So
we're talking about, give us an example of time spans that you can talk about your loved one on audio.
Okay.
Maybe 30 minutes, maybe how many hours?
So my different packages go from a 1 hour or a 2 hour session. I call those my mini packages. And then I have an up to 7 hours of recorded time or up to 14 hours of recorded time. And so I made them that way due to the fact that with your older individuals, 7 hours is actually enough time to cover a life history.
Right. So do you recommend that, number one, do you offer suggestions what would be best for that person, whether they need someone to come with them, or do you go out to them, or do they come to you all the time?
So it's always an in-home recording.
In-home, okay.
I want them to feel completely comfortable and be able to open up absolutely completely to me, and so I go to them, and I try and be extremely warm and open, and so that they can warm up to me.
Do you know what I'm thinking about while you're talking? I'm thinking, Lord, I wonder if she's gone to the nursing homes. How many people out there have awesome stories?
Yeah.
And the families that do go visit them, you know?
Absolutely.
And I think about the different people, even some of the television shows I've seen where these people are in a nursing home just sitting there and nobody's listening.
I know.
And then they partner them up with a kid, which I think is great, or
Yes.
somebody to go in and visit, or grandmother, grandfather, adoption day, stuff like that. I think that's awesome.
I absolutely love going to the assisted living homes and nursing homes and doing these recordings. It seems to brighten their day up, and it makes me feel so wonderful.
That's what was so special about me. I lost my grandmother, great-grandmother, actually 10, 11 years ago, a little more than that, about 12. And I used to run to Arkansas and it was like sitting in a rocking chair and just listening to all the stories.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so soothing. And they enjoyed telling the stories because they were getting the attention. And then, of course, that's how I did a 7-generation, I had mentioned to you, family tree on, roll out freezer paper. They kept talking and they kept talking. No, don't put those on the family tree. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but then again, audio came later, and I didn't have enough tape to really at that time. But so I think this is wonderful. Heather, what are some of the things that you would like to do beyond what you're doing right now with this? What is your whole vision, or do you have one yet? Is it growing?
I do. I really hope.
The book.
I do. I intend to write a book. I'm actually working on having a podcast that deals with interviewing, just local people that we're pretty familiar with or should be familiar with.
That's right.
So
good.
watch for that coming out. I'll post that on Acadiana Memories page too. And I really do envision this being something that people realize that they need and they want. And so just like people go to professional photographers and have that family picture taken every so often, that this is something that they will realize, oh, okay, we really do want the life history, we really do want the family history, and so let's call and get one of these packages, and so it's just beautiful.
It's so wonderful, just the idea. I know you get excited just talking about it, and while you're talking, I'm thinking of different people that they need to contact you to just, if they want to share and lock that memory down for future generations to enjoy and actually hear the voice. Telling the story is awesome.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
I have different packages too. It's not just elderly people. A lot of
that's
people
what we need
think
to talk about.
It's just elderly people, but I say, really 50s and 60-year-olds are really an ideal point in time for someone to actually do this, because they remember so much more. And I always tell people, do you think you're going to remember more in 20 years? More than likely,
I have an answer to that. Now that I've made it on this planet, it's now just recently 67 years, I believe in writing everything down, but I can tell you one thing. I find myself thinking a whole lot now, understand. I can personally tell you, from getting older, you remember the past more than you remember the future.
Yeah.
And the present.
Right.
And I really didn't understand it until I'm at that age right now, and I find myself, and I'm looking at my daughter, because all of a sudden she'll see me, she'll go, okay, what's wrong with Mom? All of a sudden she's got this look, and I'll look at her and I'll see this look and go, hey, I was just remembering this, and I'd share it with her, and then I realized, no wonder they think us getting older, we're losing it, but we actually got all these memories coming. And in between the storytelling, great-grandmother used to be an actress. And what happened is that sometimes we had to decipher what was her acting and what was the real story, so we didn't believe everything she was telling us, so we'd always have to confirm it with grandmother or her sister, aunt, or niece, And so, but she was such an entertainer, we didn't know if she was acting or performing or if she was really telling the truth, but we found out. 90% was the truth.
That's fascinating.
Then she was telling some stories. I'm like, oh, I don't even know if I want to share that with anybody else. But it was the plantation days, and we say the good old days, but that was some rough days.
They really were. It was tough.
And that's the stories that I was capturing. It was from her. Imagine, just like you said with your grandparents. My great-grandmother was from wealth, her father, and when she wanted to marry my grandfather, they were against it. So she was disinherited from the England background.
Really?
So she chose love over money, and he didn't last very long. And the whole point is, he died early, and she went through many husbands after that. And she has a really colorful history of the wrong side of the track and then the right side of the track. But all these stories are stories. People would flock with me and say, when you go into Arkansas, I want to be on that train with you, or I want to be in that car with you.
Yes.
And then I'd get back. It was always an adventure. It was always storytelling, always something. So when I get back, even my dentist would call and say, okay, what happened? What happened on the trip? Storytelling.
Yes.
And it got to a point, seriously, Heather, I wished I would have recorded everything. I had a beauty shop, and people would flock to, after I got back, and want to know what happened. We know something happened. And one particular day, and I'll end it with this on that topic, is that the storytelling was so interesting and didn't have to make it up. It was true that my sister and I encountered one particular incident, and we said, okay, we ain't telling nobody about this. So whenever we got back, it was so far-fetched, it was unbelievable. We got through it, but the whole thing is there's more to that story, and it'll be written later.
Okay.
But what happened is we decided we're not going to tell anybody about the story, and they'd say, we know something happened. Something always happens.
Right.
So when you have this storytelling, and it's an interest to people, and what's more interesting than hearing true stories?
Absolutely.
Stories of survival, stories of faith, stories of passion, stories literally of community interests, like you.
Yes.
I'm a person that loves sharing what the people are doing in community. I'm local. My heart is local. There's a lot of people out of Louisiana, but my heart is get the ones local. What's going on in Lafayette, around this area?
Absolutely.
And I had never heard of anyone else doing this.
No.
So Acadiana Memories is like, wow, and I had you down like I told you.
Yes.
I saw you on Facebook, somebody shared or you shared, and from there I went, oh, I got to get her on, and then all of a sudden I think I approached you, or somehow you ended up at a meeting and you introduced yourself, and I went, so that's why we're here today.
Very good.
I love your idea. I love
Thank
your
you.
passion. I love the reason that you are creating this. And with that said, what else would you like to share before we get into even getting near to the end of the show?
Okay, well, actually, I do a little bit more than just entire life stories. So
That's what we need to know.
yeah, I have a package that people seem to really love. It's a 1-hour session where 2 people come together and they talk about how they met. So it's for a couple. It's called
love
a
stories.
Love story package. Yes.
Oh.
They tell about how they met, how they felt, and over the course of the time when they were dating and up through their marriage. So that's a really great gift to be able to give their family.
That's a memory caught in audio. Wow.
Absolutely.
So from the beginning
Yes.
of life as a married couple or whatever, all the way through the life of the person, and people tell the stories also after they're gone. So you really offer to cover it all, huh?
I do, actually, and I just started
But in a
new
unique way. It's not the normal. It's not the.
Right.
It's new. It's different.
Yeah, so I call myself a creative historical preservationist. So
There you go.
I want to creatively capture all the different moments in people's lives. So I'm rolling out a new package shortly, which will be when someone finds out that they're having a baby.
Aw.
They can do a little recording, and so it'll be over the course of their pregnancy, about 4 different recording sessions, so that they'll capture their feelings and their aspirations. And
Well, here we are on television. It's going to be on the air soon, and on Acadiana Open Channel first, then it'll go into YouTube, and then after YouTube it'll be shared on Facebook.
Yes.
So I'm believing that people out there are going to be excited like I am that there is something like this. It's sure going to make life a whole lot easier for a lot of us. I mean, people who want to write but don't know how to write can also go. In fact, I had someone inquire, and I was excited to find out not only, switching gears, you also are a ghostwriter.
I am.
Since you are going to be publishing a book, and that was an added asset to me to be able to get permission to recommend you to other people who need help to tell their stories.
Absolutely.
And then I'll be able to share. And I get in touch with this other lady, like I told you. And so she's definitely at her convenience, 90-something years old. We'll be getting in touch with you.
Wow.
And she's writing poetry, and she's writing her memoirs, and she's an awesome lady. And so I'm trying to give her all the information I can regarding you. And she is very, very intelligent. Kate Refford, believe it or not.
Wonderful.
How do you like that name, Kate Refford? And she's an awesome lady. Well, I'm with Louisiana Heart Beats, and of course we're sitting here, and just so many great opportunities come forward after having guests on this show that Acadiana, I'm trying to talk Heather into possibly creating her own show so she can share some of these stories, even with Acadiana Open Channel, you know, and at the same time possibly be using some of the facilities here and just furthering whatever you need to do.
Right.
Acadiana Open Channel offers you the opportunity to share your story, and if you don't know how to go about it, gives you different outlets by listening to the guests like we have on our show and other shows here. And then if you really want to go further with it, then sometimes you can even join AOC. And from there, who knows? We may have another show called AcadianaMemories.com on the air. Well, tune in every Monday night, and please be sure to let us know what you're interested in hearing, and be able, when you can, to check out AcadianaMemories.com. And Heather Cypel will have what she offers there. Mainly is great direction, maybe to help your dream come true, or to secure that memory of the person, or even yourself, in the future of generations to come. Until then, be blessed. And Heather, while the rolling credits are there, is there anything you'd like to close the show out with?
No, thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you for adjusting to a very busy schedule, which I know you have. And I'm so glad we met. And hope to do
Likewise.
another show.
Okay, absolutely.